Do you want these? Or these?
We can all make a difference. Make a difference. Make a difference.
It is up for you to choose what action to take. But it would always be better to take the positive step. Together with Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, we can make a better world. What are Sustainable Development Goals? The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015, provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people on the planet now and into the future. At its heart are the 17 Sustainable Goals, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, developed and developing in a global partnership. They recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth, all while tackling climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests.
How were Sustainable Development Goals created?
The Sustainable Development Goals were born at the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development on Rio de Janeiro in 2012. These replaced the Millennium Development Goals, which started a global effort in 2000 to tackle the indignity of poverty. The MDGs establish measurable, universally agreed objectives for tackling extreme poverty and hunger, preventing deadly diseases, and expanding primary education to all children, among other development priorities.
Goal 1. No poverty.
About 47.3 million Americans live in poverty. By the year 2030, the UN would like to completely eliminate poverty for all the world, and to ensure that all people have equal rights to economic resources, as well as access to basic services and ownership over things like new technology and financial services. If you see a person or a group of people in need, then giving them just a little food, water, or anything would make a big difference, and it would spread that mindset to the people around you.
Goal 2. No hunger.
About 795 million people in today's world are undernourished. By the year 2030, the UN would like to completely eliminate all forms of malnutrition. In addition, there will be international agreements on stunting and wasting, which will be practiced in the year 2025. If you don't finish your plate at any meal, try not to throw it out. That bit of food could have been someone's next meal.
Goal 3. Good health and well-being.
About 6 million children in today's world die under the age of 5. The year 2030, the UN would like to reduce the maternal mortality ratio to less than 70 per 100,000 live births. If you see a person that is sickly or looks to be in pain, don't ignore it. Confirm that there is a problem and get help immediately.
Goal 4. Quality education.
About 57 million children and youths are not in school or under any form of education. By the year 2030, the UN would like to ensure that all children complete free, equitable, and quality education. There are hundreds of charities you can donate to that realize the true importance of quality education, such as UNICEF's School in a Box.
Goal 5. Gender equality.
The vast majority of gender inequality and domestic violence is toward women and girls. However, there are actually 3 million male domestic violence victims every year. These people are looked upon as cowardly and weak. By the year 2030, the UN would like to end all forms of discrimination against all women and girls, and eliminate all harmful practices, such as forced marriage and genital mutilation. Try to create a balance among everyone, and make sure to spread the word. You can also stand up for gender equality through protests and events.
Goal 6. Clean water and sanitation.
About 1.8 billion people worldwide consume a contaminated water supply, and about 2.4 billion people do not have access to simple hygiene facilities like bathrooms and showers. By the year 2030, the UN would like to create reliable access to safe, affordable, and clean drinking water, and adequate sanitation and hygiene facilities for all people. Try not to waste water in your daily life.
Goal 7. Affordable and clean energy.
About 1 in 5 people don't have access to electricity, let alone affordable or clean. By the year 2030, the UN would like to double the universal development rate of energy efficiency and secure worldwide access to affordable, dependable, and modern energy services. You can save both electricity and money by turning off appliances, lights, or anything running on electrical power when it is not in use.
Goal 8. Decent work and economic growth.
About 205 million people in today's world are unemployed, about 75 million of which are young men and women. By the year 2030, the UN would like to eradicate human trafficking, modern slavery, too young army recruiting, and all other inhumane forms of child labor. There are plenty of charities you can donate to and organizations you can support that recognize the true importance of economic growth.
Goal 9. Industry, innovation, and infrastructure.
Basic infrastructure, such as roads, communication systems, electrical power, and water, is scarce in many parts of today's world. By the year 2030, the UN would like to develop quality, reliable, sustainable, and resilient infrastructure, and raise industry's share of employment and gross domestic products to national baselines. There are plenty of charities you can donate to and organizations you can support that recognize the true importance of infrastructure and industry.
Goal 10. Reduced inequalities.
Income inequalities increased by about 11% in developing countries between the years 1990 and 2010. By the year 2030, the UN would like to create social, economical, and political equality, regardless of age, gender, disability, race, ethnicity, religion, or economic status. All you need to do is follow the golden rule. Treat others as you want to be treated.
Goal 11. Sustainable cities and communities.
About 3.5 billion people live in cities in today's world, but 828 million people live in slums today. By the year 2030, the UN would like to make adequate, safe, and affordable housing services accessible for everyone, and create safe, affordable, accessible, and sustainable transport systems while improving road safety. The easiest way is to help keep the place you live as clean and as safe as possible in any way you can come up with.
Goal 12. Responsible consumption and production.
About 1/3 of all food produced every year ends up either rotting in the trash or spoiling due to poor transportation and harvesting practices. By the year 2030, the UN would like to achieve the management of chemicals in all wastes throughout their life cycle and significantly reduce the release to air, water, and soil. You can save electricity by turning off unused electrical appliances or lights, or save resources by turning off unused water or taking shorter showers.
Goal 13. Climate action.
The average global temperature increased by about 0.85 degrees Celsius over the course of 1880 to 2012. By the year 2030, the UN would like to strengthen resistance and adaptive capacity to climate-related hazards and natural disasters everywhere. Believe it or not, making sure to save energy, food, water, resources, and the environment will actually help a great deal.
Goal 14. Life below water.
Since oceans contain nearly 200,000 to millions of identified species and cover 3/4 of Earth's surface, pollution and contamination don't help marine life and do not produce healthy drinking water. By the year 2030, the UN would like to significantly reduce or possibly eliminate marine pollution of all kinds, and protect marine and coastal ecosystems to avoid critical impacts. All you need to do is make sure that water of any kind stays clean and in good condition.
Goal 15. Life on land.
About 1.6 billion lives rely on forests to be their shelters, and those lives share these forests with 80% of the world's wildlife. By the year 2030, the UN would like to promote the enactment of sustainable management of all forests, and sustainably promote afforestation and reforestation globally. All you need to do is make sure that your environment, whether it's your own home or any other place, stays as clean and as safe as possible.
Goal 16. Peace, justice, and strong institutions.
The judiciary and police institutions are among the most affected by corruption. By the year 2030, the UN would like to significantly reduce all forms of violence and related death rates everywhere. All you need to do is make sure that you do the right thing and that you think about what you do before you do it.
Goal 17. Partnerships.
No one should be left behind. The key to being able to reach these ambitious goals is to include everyone at all levels of society. The Sustainable Development Goals is put forward as a global solution and therefore demands global cooperation and collective action. We now have the opportunity to put words into action and to work towards a more sustainable and peaceful future. Making global partnerships for sustainable development is crucial if we want to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. We need to move from commitment to action, and we need to do this together.